Their work will look humble and little.
Mother Agnes Mary Donovan has just received the GIVEN Institute Fiat Award in recognition of her over 35 years of work in upholding the dignity of women and children, promoting the gift of life, and for the integration of faith and professional excellence.
God's love is forever.
From Pennsylvania in the USA, in this interview, Mother Agnes Mary opens up about how her faith developed.
With a finite mind and a finite heart, somehow encountering the infinite.
How does that change your life?
It changes everything.
And how, as a professor in clinical psychology at Columbia University in New York, she felt a calling to something greater.
I said, I'll be in a convent next year at this time. And he said, oh, no, not so fast. And I said, I will.
We talk about her work with the Sisters of Life, having been their Superior General for 30 years.
They're part of our family. They're part of who we are. And we look to them, because they tell us about us. Oh, it's wonderful.
I'm Colm Flynn, and this is an interview with Mother Agnes Mary Donovan. It's good to laugh, Mother Agnes Mary, isn't it?
It is.
This, I just want to tell people at home, and this is true, this interview has been 5 years in the making. I've been trying to sit down with Mother Agnes Mary for years, and every time I got an email back saying, look, I'm busy, I'm out of town, and eventually, Colm, I just don't want to talk to you. Stop emailing. But we have you here, you've been held hostage. How are you doing today?
I'm well, I am well.
It is so great to see you.
You look well yourself.
We're going to talk about your incredible story, your incredible life that has brought you to where you are today, here, as you say, at the center of the Catholic Church. But first, I want to congratulate you on receiving this award, the GIVEN Institute Fiat Award.
Right.
How do you feel on receiving this?
Well, I was shocked, actually, and I'm deeply pleased. I love GIVEN. It was raised up with a particular purpose, which was to identify young women who had an aptitude for leadership, who were Catholic, and for whom an institute like GIVEN could provide formation, networking, help them to identify the gifts that God has given them that they can use at the service of the world and the church. And it's done a remarkable job of that, which is really so pleasing.
How do you recognize, Mother, a God-given gift? We hear that phrase sometimes, it's a God-given gift or a God-given talent. How do you know when you have something that is actually a gift from God and that you should use it?
Well, one of the ways I think that you notice it most easily is that other people notice it first. And they'll tell you, you ought to be a teacher. Or they might have said to you, Colm,
there's no hope for you.
No.
You were struggling to find the talent there.
No, you should be, in this business of communications because you communicate so fastly, so easily, so readily,
Good recovery.
So anyway, I think those are some of the ways in which a person knows. And that's what happens at this GIVEN Institute. Others observe and see and hear, listen to what they've said and written, listen to the desires that they have in their hearts, and altogether that begins to emerge what God has given this person.
Why do you think it's hard for young women, because that's who you primarily work with, for them to recognize that in themselves sometimes, that it needs to be someone else pointing it out to them?
Well, I think that's true perhaps in all times, but I think it's uniquely true now, because if you are a woman of faith, you're living in a way that's countering a prevalent culture. So you don't fit in, and you don't fit the mold of those who are or look like they will become successful. And so it's very important to have other people around you ratify and encourage and identify that you are uniquely gifted in this way. And this is a gift that has been given that you can develop and give back to the world.
It can be isolating sometimes, can't it? If you feel like you're the only one who has this faith and wants to live by these values, and especially incorporate it into your career or your work life.
Exactly. That is your faith can make you feel very isolated from whatever is mainstream, which is really a pity, and which is why a community of people which surrounds you, that is provided by GIVEN, is just one of those avenues
And isn't it wonderful that someone like you, who has had a career in academia as a clinical psychologist, can prove so well just how you can really live out your faith and have this fruitful career and a very satisfying career. Because if we can go back a little bit, where are you from in the US?
I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania. I'm thinking to myself, I'm from out behind the beyond.
Really?
You know, it's way out in the country of farming country, what had been originally an Irish farming settlement in Susquehanna County.
Because you're Donovan?
I am.
All right. So did you grow up on a farm?
I didn't. I didn't grow up on a farm, but I grew up in a farming community, and my father's farm was, his family farm was probably 3 or 5 miles away. And we always grew up with a flock of about 200 sheep. He taught agriculture in the high schools, and it was a wonderful life. It was a life that was just full.
Full with?
Oh, full with, nursing you had your own little ICU unit on the back porch for the little lambs that didn't make it so well, and we'd be bottle feeding them and riding horses.
That's beautiful.
It was just a very natural life. I think back on it, and I'm grateful for it.
When you were growing up, Mother Agnes Mary, what were you thinking? Oh, I'd like to do that. I have a flair for this. These are my gifts and my talents. This is what I want to do when I grow up.
Well, I always thought, because of the circumstances, I'd be a farmer's wife. That's what I thought. And I thought I would have 6 children. Now, I don't know why I thought that, but those are my thoughts.
That was your dream.
And that is, I think it was just because it was a good way of life. It was a happy way of life, a coherent and integrated way of life for a family. But it was also, I think, I loved people. And that was probably the basis of my own interest in pursuing psychology.
Yeah, why psychology?
I think just to understand the human person. It probably starts out with, as a young person understanding oneself. They always say that about psychologists. I suspect there's some truth to it. But I think it was also just about the differences among us and what makes us flourish, what makes us happy, what makes us develop.
And this was at a time in society where there's a lot of change, a new era coming in. Did you ever doubt the faith, struggle with it, reconsider? Definitely.
Never lost the practice of it, which I am so grateful for now. But definitely searched and searched and searched to find the way that it would be real for me, or to find what it meant to follow God in a very real way. And I'm very grateful to God for all the graces, that come to you, that allow you to find your way back intellectually and in your heart. This is true, and this is real.
What do you think made you continue to practice? Because many people stop practicing at that time if they're questioning a bit and unsure. They say, well, I'm going to park that for a while, and my friends are saying otherwise, and they might be right.
Yeah,
but you kept going to Mass and practicing.
I did. I think simply the love of it, the love of the supernatural, and that God was somehow real. The love of the Mass, I think that all contributed. And I also had a priest. This would be later in my young life, when I was probably in my late 20s, and a Jesuit who introduced me to mental prayer. And then, your prayer takes off. It just has wings to fly, because suddenly you can encounter the living God in a way beyond and that is personal and separate from liturgy. And separate from the prayers, and actually you encounter Jesus in his life in this world.
You mean taking it out of being confined to worship on a Sunday in the church?
That's right. And it becoming something that was very real and personal, of knowing the living God, in some way, with a finite mind and a finite heart, somehow encountering the infinite and the mystery of God.
When you realize that and God becomes real for you, how does that change your life?
It changes everything. You know, you think of the current society, you think of the current culture, and you think of the depression and the anxiety, you think of the struggles of people. And your heart breaks, because when you have faith, you know that God's in charge. And you know that prayers are efficacious. You know that God cares, that He has a particular plan for every human person and for my life, and that it's not all on me. You know, and it would be desperate if it were, you know.
Where did you go to study psychology?
I went first just to the local community college, then I went to the University of Pittsburgh, and then I went on to a state school to get a degree to work in educational psychology. And finally, I completed my doctorate in Chapel Hill.
And you ended up then as a professor, was it, at Columbia University in New York? And you were teaching psychology there. In your head, what was the end game? Were you thinking, okay, I'll just stay here in New York, I'm in academia now, this is it, I'll climb the ladder?
Absolutely, loved it, thought I'd be there forever. Was in fact buying a house and going to stay, buying a house in upstate, northeastern PA, near my parents, and saying, this will be great, I'll live in the city, I'll have a place where I can retreat from the noise and do sabbaticals and be close enough to be really a part of my parents' life.
And you had made it, Mother Agnes, in, you know, when you look at it in the worldly sense, coming from a rural place, as you said, the back of beyond, now you're a professor at a big university in New York City.
I ended up writing the grant that was I just was so enthralled by, it was entitled, it was a large grant that we got from the MacArthur Foundation. And I entitled it, Does It Matter Who Reads to Our Children? Grandmothers, mothers, and daycare personnel reading to children. And actually the preliminary results that we had was that it made all the difference in the world.
Wow.
Yes, wow. And mothers and grandmothers, but mothers particularly, adjusted and adapted their language perfectly to the developmental level of their child, where daycare center teachers or personnel did not adjust the language to the level of the child. It was as if it was built in by God that they could do this.
Wow, like some sort of DNA connection or something like that.
Exactly.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible to me.
So I can see your face lighting up when you talk about that work.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy your time?
Oh, I loved it.
Lecturing and
I loved it. I thought that would be my life forever. I had no intentions of
And were you
leaving.
happy?
I was very happy. I was very happy.
So then what happened, sister? What made you think then one day, I think there might be more to this than what I'm doing now?
The way it happened was that I was on a retreat at the end of my first year of teaching in New York. And it was an 8-day retreat, and it was a Ignatian retreat where you pray in silence for 8 days and basically listen to and see things that you don't see when you're not silent and you're not praying. And I think what happened was that essentially an encounter with the love of God just turned my life upside down, because I was very happy living life and enjoying it and giving all the good things to God, and I thought that I was supposed to plan my life. And this was an encounter which revealed to me that no, God had a plan for my life.
Was it a calling that you felt?
Oh, definitely a calling to give all of my life to God, and He would decide what that would look like. So in other words, it was a call to love, to give all of my mind, my heart, my soul, the entirety of my life. Yeah.
You say it so easily, but when you think of that, you then think practically of all the things that you would have to wind up and finish and turn your back on to give yourself completely to God. Was that scary?
You know, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was as if I knew this was what I had been waiting for always, while I didn't ever ask myself that. But I knew that this finally was what my life was about.
Did you know what it was?
It was to love someone with all of my heart, with all of my mind, with all of my soul.
And did you think, well, to do that fully, I must become a religious sister?
Oh, it seemed obvious to me. It seemed obvious. And I told my retreat director that. I said, you know, I'll be in a convent next year at this time. And he said, oh, no, 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 not so fast. And I said, I will. I just knew.
When you would talk to your friends,
yeah,
the other professors,
yes,
your colleagues,
yeah,
your parents, and you said,
yeah,
I'm thinking about this,
yeah,
how did they react?
The dean of the school, who I spoke to just before I would leave, who I knew nothing about his personal life other than he was a fine dean and of the school and an effective one. And I told him the story, and I thought, there's no way of getting around this. I'm leaving, so I'll tell you the whole story. And I told him, and he said to me, he said, well, I was young at the time. He said, in my life, I would have called that a gift. And I said, oh. I had another professor who I was collaborating with, and she was a lovely woman, but she was not of faith, and she was a world-class researcher. And I told her the story, and she looked at me and she said, if I were your mother, I would spank you.
She said, you've gone bananas. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
She couldn't imagine you turning your back on this career.
Couldn't imagine, no.
She said, you're throwing it away.
Yeah, another one would say, you know, I just have to tell you, I am afraid you are going to hurt women, because she knew I was pro-life. And isn't that sad? You know, because you were dedicating your life to something the exact opposite, to uphold them, to walk with them, to be with them.
When you left the university and you entered the convent, when did you become a sister finally?
Well, I entered in 1991 when it was founded, and I became a sister by the August of 1993. You
then became Mother Superior?
I then became Mother Superior, yes.
Were you their first Mother Superior?
I was the first.
Yeah, because people often refer to you as the foundress.
No.
Or co-foundress.
No.
No.
No, I've never thought of myself that way. Cardinal O'Connor actually received the charismatic grace, that is the foundational grace of our community. And I was the first superior and a long-term superior, but...
the foundational sisters.
Right, the foundational, and I think all of the first 50 sisters are probably foundational sisters. We all contributed to the foundation of mission, to the foundation of our common life, everything about our lives. You know, you do it together in a community.
The Sisters of Life, if you had to describe it to someone you just met in an elevator and they said, oh, what do you do? What is your charism?
We live in an age when most people don't get up in the morning and feel that their life matters deeply to many. They question the meaning and the purpose of their lives, you know? And our purpose as Sisters of Life is to answer that very ache in the heart of man, which is to say that you are of infinite value, that you came from a creator who created you with a particular purpose for your life. And only you can fulfill that purpose. And so we get up every day to proclaim that to the world, that you are sacred, you have a sacred origin, you have a sacred destiny, and that every moment through life matters.
Is it difficult to relay that message today when there are so many distractions, when people are on social media, there's so many pressures now for young people to think a certain way, act a certain way, and the message that you are giving can be sometimes so countercultural that they're not seen anywhere else.
Exactly. I would say giving the message is not difficult because it resonates in the heart of man and women, and they really want to hear it, and they will listen. They may question, I'm not sure that's true. But if they listen and they absorb, which in our experience, they do. The women are eager to hear that because it resonates deeply in the heart of man, Colm, because it is true to our nature. It is true to who we are. And it's finally someone saying those words that defines to me what I've always kind of thought It's given language to an experience that they've always had. That
it's something that's already been there. They felt it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just
exactly.
couldn't put words in it or understand it.
Exactly.
Wow. How long did it take before women started arriving at your doors, calling your telephone and looking for help?
Not very long, as postulants. So that means we were 2 months, and we received our first call as postulants with a young woman from a nearby Catholic university who was pregnant and who wanted to talk to someone.
When you heard that young woman call, what do you hear on the other end of the phone?
What you hear is a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, deep anxieties about making a decision that will be irrevocable. You hear fear, and you hear also, in many of them, you hear hope that they will hear something that will be clarifying, that will help them to establish a foundation on which to make that decision.
So these would be women who would be considering having an abortion.
Absolutely.
Because of an unexpected pregnancy, and
practically all the women we serve are in that very situation. They're deliberating among their options.
Why do you think they're calling you? Do you think that they're too ashamed to tell maybe their parents, or they just don't know what to do, how this would ever work out? And I'm going to go ahead with this, but maybe I'll just call them in case.
Just in case. Yes, I would say so. I think that the women that call us are calling us because they want to know everything before they make that decision. And they may not be practicing their faith, but they have some life of faith within them. And they don't want to ignore that because everything in their being tells them that this is an important decision. And so our job is simply to help them slow down long enough to simply think through and with their heart more than their mind what is before me and what my options are. And that's what we do. It's really a call to listen deeply to the heart of another and to allow her to speak what is within her heart so that she can hear herself. You know?
Is it easy to get through to people at that stage when there is, as you say, so much chaos and confusion and anxiety, and the easy option society is telling them is, look, do this, problem solved, is what society says.
Well, many who come to us have already had that experience, where they have quickly made a decision and they have lost a child to abortion. And this may be their second pregnancy. And they're not willing to move so quickly. And they really want to think it through. But not all, but I would say that probably at least half of the women we serve, really. And so...
Why are they not so quick the second time?
Because the experience of abortion is not what it's described to be. It's an experience they never want to have again. No woman would ever choose abortion if she had options that were real. And that's our job, is we listen to them. What would you do, we'd say to them, if everything were different? And they'll tell us. Well, then, and what would you need? What would you need to make it different? And she'll tell us all of the things that are necessary.
What is that? Money, support,
exactly.
Daycare, I've got a job, I've got university, I need somewhere to live.
All that. And then we, with a cadre of co-workers, hundreds of co-workers, thousands who have worked with us, we with them will put that together and help her find what she needs so that she can reasonably make that decision. Because the decision for abortion is often one that is vaguely coerced by the culture, by withdrawing all the supports that are needed.
When you hear people, and I'm sure over the years they've argued with you, I know sometimes people encounter your sisters on the street and they start putting the other arguments to them, saying, but look, this is liberating because women can choose, Or what if it's through rape or incest, or they give you these other side of the argument, as they call them. What do you say to them at a time like that?
Well, no one comes to us by force. They only come to us voluntarily. We don't seek them. They walk through our doors without ever, there's no coercion whatsoever. She is coming to us because in fact she's feeling coerced into a decision that she doesn't like or desire. And so she's saying there's got to be something else. And somebody or someone or her own research on the internet will find us, and she'll say, oh, I'll go talk to them, just to hear what they have to say.
How do they respond? I know that it's probably hard to say because each one is so unique and different, but is there something that is a commonality among a lot of them, these cases, which are sometimes tragic and very sad? When they hear you and the sisters talking in your message, how do they respond?
They respond well, honestly, to just the sense of themselves that we reflect back to them. We actually, part of our role, our job, is to just stand there as a mirror somewhat and reflect back to the person who they are as we can perceive and as they impress us with themselves. And as we do that, they know the truth of what we're saying. They may question some of it, and fair enough, but they know the truth of what we say about them. And we know they know the truth about what we say about life, that their life matters. And this decision matters to them and matters to the rest of their, will matter to them for the rest of their life.
And people come to you as well that are not Catholics, that are of no faith as well?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
There's something inside them that makes them want to reach out.
And most of the people we serve are poor, and all of the people we serve are poor. Because whether they are poor financially, economically, or whether they're poor because they come from every means that is available to a young woman who goes to university, she's poor because she has no support, And you can't be poorer than that,
Is that the worst kind of poverty?
And it's far worse. It's far worse. Yeah.
Do you remember what it was like, Mother Agnes Mary, when you walked with a woman for the first time and then saw them give birth and were able to see that child grow?
It's fabulous. It's fabulous to see. Yes, and we stay in touch with many of them. And they're part of our family. They're part of who we are. And we look to them, because they tell us about us, And, it's wonderful.
33 years, the Sisters of Life.
35.
35 years, the Sisters of Life.
1991.
Wow.
Yeah.
So many of these children have grown up.
Oh, yes. They're adults.
They're adults?
They're adults. They've been confirmed.
And you see
and they come back and they volunteer.
Really?
Yes,
Some
seriously.
of the people that the mothers you help now, their children come back and volunteer.
They do their confirmation service hours with us. And just was it last year? Yes, just last year when we celebrated the Cardinal's 25th anniversary of his going home to God. We had Zion back, and Zion was one of our first children, but he has such an amazing story. He was born to a woman while she was living in New York, and she came and found us somehow, and she lived with us during her pregnancy, and then went home.
And she was on her own, single mother?
Was on her own, a single mother, and as they all are, Colm. They rarely come to us if they have the support either of their families or of the father of their child. They wouldn't need us, But anyway, she came to us and lived with us, and then 18 years later or so, it was one morning in New York, in Manhattan, on a Saturday, and it was still summertime. And this group of young men approached the door and rang the doorbell, and Sister answered, and she was a little unsettled because we don't usually have them come in groups of 5.
Yeah.
And there they were, And yet something in her told her she better ask Sister Mary Colby, because Sister Mary Colby has lived in that house where our mothers lived with us.
I need backup. She said, bring the backup. Yeah. All the sisters came to the door. What's good? This is New York. You know?
And Sister Mary Colby came forward because she knows everyone. And so she came. And sure enough, it was Zion. And there was Zion. And Zion was now there, present, with all of his fellow football team members. He was playing for Yale, and he had just come because he told his mother, it wasn't her idea, it was his idea. He said, Mom, I want to go back to where I lived first. And so he came back to Sacred Heart Convent, and it was a wondrous, wondrous reunion to see him. He's a young man now, graduated from Yale, and just a wonderful, wonderfully good person.
That life that may not have been.
That life that may not have been. And every Christmas when we have our Christmas party, you look at all these children that are there. They come back because we invite all the graduates back. And they come back and you stand there and you say, not one of them would probably be alive. Not one of them. Yeah.
You said you wanted to have 6 children.
Yeah.
When you were a little girl.
Yeah.
How many children do you think you have today?
Who knows? Who knows? I hope there's many. The Sisters of Life, I know. We have probably more than 10, 12, 15,000. A whole village of children. Yeah.
Isn't it incredible?
It's wonderful. And happy mothers. Mothers who have lived a difficult life, maybe, most times. A difficult life, raising a child on her own, but with the support of family, with the support of communities, with the support of the church, has made it. And that's how she feels. I made it.
When a woman is faced with that difficult decision, and as you said, no woman would put herself in that position to make that choice. And I know on one side they're thinking, if I go ahead with this, will I regret it? Will I not? Then they meet you and they go through with the pregnancy, they have the child. Have you ever in the past 3 decades heard a mother say to you in confidence, I regret that decision, I wish I didn't do this? No, we haven't.
But we also serve women, hundreds, every year, who have suffered that experience of an abortion, and serve them because they came to us, but also because it's the most wondrous mission, Colm, to receive these women, to usher them through a program of retreat and prayer and gatherings, where they explore and understand what has happened in their life. And they come to us sometimes weeks and months after the abortion. Sometimes they come decades after. We've even had someone as old as 86 come as she's preparing to go home to God, to just question what happened and to resolve it in her heart. And it's the most wonderful thing you've ever seen, to see these women actually begin to believe in the mercy and the tenderness of the heart of God.
When you started Sister, it was 8 foundational sisters?
Right.
How many Sisters of Life today?
There's around 145. I don't know the
145.
actual number, but that's somewhere in there. Yeah.
But wait a second, we're living in a world where vocations are dropping, religious orders are shrinking.
Right.
You're bucking the
but
trend.
Not all.
Yes.
Yes.
Not all, but a lot of them, many of them.
A lot, many.
But the
yes.
Sisters of Life has not had that problem.
No. No, thanks be to God.
What do you
and
put
we
that down
need
to?
many more.
You need more?
Oh, many more. God
you have a steady stream of people coming every year?
Thanks be to God. God has blessed us with vocations. Yes.
How much of that, I know you're a very modest lady, but as the General Superior for the past 30 years, I know you moved out of that role now, but you were the one leading them, inspiring them.
I can assure you, it has nothing to do with me. Nobody would come to live this life because of me. You would only do this because of God.
Mother Agnes Mary Donovan, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much.
Pleasure to talk to you, Colm. Yes. May God bless you and the work you do here.
And all my talents
and all your talents.
My hidden
and
talents.
gifts.
They're very well hidden.
Yes.
As we say, that was a good rehearsal. Let's record that now. When you're ready.
Goodbye, Colm.
Thank you, sister.
Yeah, thanks.
That's wonderful.